In 2022, Qatar hosted the most expensive World Cup in history. It cost the country $220 billion. Over the 12 years since winning the right to host the tournament, this money was poured into infrastructure, stadiums, transport links, and broad urban development. Pure madness, or a leap forward into a bright future for an entire nation? For comparison, roughly 80% of the world's countries don't even reach a $200 billion GDP. With that same amount, you could solve the problem of clean water access for all 1.5 billion people in Africa, with enough left over to maintain and expand those systems for a decade to come. And Qatar is no exception. South Africa, Brazil, and Russia. Almost every host nation has faced the same question once the tournament ends. Was it all worth it? Because the moment the final whistle blows, something strange happens. The cameras shut off. The tourists go home. The world's attention fades away. But the costs stay behind. So why do countries keep fighting for the right to host the World Cup? And more importantly, who actually benefits from it? To find the answer, we need to understand what product FIFA is actually selling, wrapped in a flashy package of development and access to surging streams of money. And it's not football. It's attention. Every 4 years, the World Cup becomes the single most watched event on the planet. Hundreds of thousands of fans inside the stadiums, billions of viewers worldwide. A full month of global attention, all pointed at one host country. FIFA frames hosting the World Cup as a unique opportunity, a once-in-a-generation chance. They promise economic growth, a tourism boom, foreign investment, global branding. For politicians, this sounds like the perfect deal. Unlike most traditional investments, the benefits here are immediately visible. These are powerful images, easy to sell to the public. People see new stadiums and airports rising, roads getting upgraded, and most importantly, all of it stays behind. It's not a decoration, not a billboard ad. It's right there, in glass, concrete, and paint. But there's one problem. Most of these benefits aren't actually guaranteed. They're just projections. At first glance, the World Cup looks like a shared success story. Builders build, hoteliers and restaurant owners host, bankers exchange tourists' money. But the financial structure is deeply uneven. FIFA generates revenue from broadcast rights, sponsorship deals, licensing agreements, marketing services. FIFA doesn't just earn money during the tournament. It earns continuously, breaking its finances down into 4-year cycles running from one tournament to the next. Take the World Cup in Qatar. The organization earned $7.5 billion over those 4 years, yet it spent far less, just $1.8 billion, of which Qatar itself covered $123 million. Congratulations! Your profit, $5.7 billion. Meanwhile, host countries are the ones spending on stadium construction, infrastructure upgrades, transportation systems, security operations, urban development. And Qatar, for example, invested $200 billion and received, brace yourself, $1.56 billion. Congratulations. Your loss, $183 billion. So here's the structure laid bare. One organization generates the revenue. Governments take on the enormous expenses, especially in countries where football infrastructure has to be built from the ground up. This creates a fundamental imbalance. So why do countries keep lining up to host, even bribing FIFA officials for the privilege of taking on the losses? It comes down to expectations, because governments often assume that spending now leads to profit later. Economists call this the investment narrative: spend now, profit later. But at mega events like this, that logic often falls apart. Economists have a term for infrastructure that's expensive to build and maintain, but ends up underused once it's finished. They call it a white elephant. A lot of World Cup stadiums fall into exactly this category. Take South Africa 2010, for example. Its spending was far more modest than Qatar's, but that was over 15 years ago. The country poured serious money into building and upgrading stadiums, $1.6 billion. During the tournament, everything worked. The stands were packed. The whole world watched the football adventure unfold, with Spain lifting the gold trophy in the final. The event itself was a success. But once the World Cup ended, reality set in. Some stadiums simply fell into inconsistent use. Polokwane Stadium is a textbook case of a superfluous facility. Local clubs only play there a couple of times a season, while the rest of the year, the arena just sits empty. Upkeep costs are massive, and in South Africa's hot climate, keeping the turf alive is its own ongoing battle. And at Cape Town Stadium after the World Cup, the structure holding up the stands was at risk of collapsing, triggering additional inspection costs of around $140,000. Once the confetti settles and the fireworks fade, it's local authorities left alone to deal with the damage and the long-term financial burden. This is exactly where the World Cup model starts showing its structural cracks, because the tournament lasts 1 month, and infrastructure costs are measured in decades. Brazil in 2014 stands as one of the most striking examples of the tension between economics and politics. On paper, Brazil was the perfect World Cup host, a footballing nation, a global symbol of the sport itself. But before the tournament even kicked off, protests erupted across the country, and they weren't about football. They were about priorities. Billions were poured into stadiums and infrastructure. The initial estimate for stadium costs was $1.1 billion, but media reports suggest the real figure hit $3.6 billion, almost 3.5 times over budget. The government insisted the World Cup would bring long-term benefits. Critics, however, argued those benefits were uncertain at best and unevenly shared at worst, and that raised a deeper question. Who is the World Cup really for? The people? Or the country's image abroad? Because those two goals don't always line up. The 2018 World Cup in Russia opened up a whole new dimension. Here, the World Cup wasn't just an economic event. The real goal was visibility, a chance to reshape global perception through a tightly controlled narrative. Modern stadiums, flawless organization, warm, world-class hospitality. It was a geopolitical tool. After the 2014 Winter Olympics and the aggression against Ukraine, the country was actively searching for a way to reclaim its image as a peaceful nation, and it found an unusually bold way to do it. In April 2020, the U.S. Department of Justice officially accused Russia, for the first time, of bribing football officials to secure the 2018 World Cup. The investigation found that Trinidadian FIFA official Jack Warner was promised and received bribes totaling $5 million in exchange for his vote in favor of Russia. Interestingly, across both tournaments, Russia 2018 and Qatar 2022, U.S. authorities have, since 2015, charged 45 individuals and several sports companies with more than 90 crimes, involving the payment or receipt of over $200 million in bribes. For Russia, financial return was never really the point. The real focus shifted to soft power, influence, perception, positioning on the world stage. And that reveals something important. For some countries, the World Cup isn't an investment at all. It's a communications and geopolitical strategy. And communications don't follow the usual logic of return on investment. Back to Qatar, a country with a small population but enormous financial potential. The 2022 FIFA World Cup is estimated to be the most expensive in history. Over $200 billion was spent on infrastructure, transport, and development projects. Critics questioned the economic feasibility. Proponents argued that this was a national transformation. But Qatar demonstrates an important characteristic of modern mega events. The return on investment is no longer purely financial, it is strategic. Qatar used the World Cup to accelerate infrastructure development, position itself as a global hub, increase international visibility, strengthen geopolitical significance. In this model, the World Cup becomes less about profit and more about repositioning the country in the global system. But this raises an important question. If success is measured by impact, not money, how do you judge whether it was worth it? Over decades of research, economists keep stumbling on the same pattern. The projected benefits of mega events are almost always overestimated before they happen. Why? Because forecasts tend to assume sustained tourism growth, long-term investment inflows, steady economic momentum. But reality behaves differently. Tourism does spike temporarily. Even at its peak, right in the middle of the tournament, tourists are unlikely to spend enough to cover what it costs the country to host them. Let's do the math. 1.4 million fans traveled to Qatar. To cover the country's $220 billion in expenses, each would have had to spend $157,143. Infrastructure is often left underused once the event ends, and what looks like new economic activity is sometimes just money being redistributed, not created. Which leads to a core problem. The World Cup is excellent at generating short-term visibility. It's far worse at generating long-term economic returns. Let's pull it all together and see what these countries actually managed to squeeze out of their tournaments. South Africa? spent in $3.6 billion, earned $1.2 billion. Brazil spent $15 billion, earned $1.2 billion. Russia spent $11.6 billion, earned $1.7 billion. Qatar spent $220 billion, earned $1.56 billion. Yes, this is only the one-time gain. As mentioned, these countries are banking on a long-term payoff. But even there, the picture isn't pretty. Neither South Africa, nor Brazil, nor especially Russia saw any real tourism surge after the World Cup ended. Giant stadiums now sit empty, rusting away, quietly draining money into upkeep. Qatar's case looks better. After the tournament, the country saw foreign direct investment jump by 30%, and tourism grew significantly. It managed to dodge the usual post-tournament slump. Compare it like this. During the entire month-long World Cup, 1.4 million tourists came. Today, Qatar welcomes that same number of visitors in roughly 9 to 10 days, and nearly 4 times as many people annually as it saw during the whole tournament combined. Even so, recovering the full cost will take a very long time, especially given the ongoing instability across the Middle East. By now, you can probably guess the smartest way to avoid overspending. Already have the stadiums, airports, and hotels built. That's why more countries are teaming up for joint bids, splitting the costs between them, like South Korea and Japan did in 2002, or Ukraine and Poland for Euro 2012. Right now, 3 countries are co-hosting the World Cup: the United States, Canada, and Mexico. None of them built new stadiums. The total cost came in at around $14 billion. On paper, this tournament has a real shot at being the first one that actually turns a profit for its hosts. Still, plenty of economists remain skeptical, and not without good reason. The World Cup isn't just an economic decision. It's politics, psychology, and the magic of big numbers. It offers something rare: global attention. For 1 month, a country becomes the center of the entire world. And in politics, attention is often worth more than profit. The World Cup isn't a business investment. It's a global marketplace for attention. And in that marketplace, countries are willing to spend almost anything. Because in the modern world, visibility itself has become a form of power.